just like Devagiri. But they had to face a bitter experience. The military leader of Warangal, Pothuganti Maili, fought ferociously and killed Muhammadan soldiers on one side, and Velama leader Vennadu encouraged the forces and plunging forward like a lion to finish the opponent forces. There was a heavy loss on the side of Sultan's forces. Their dreams of winning the war were completely shattered and withdrew from the war with the leftover forces. In this hair-raising, bitterly fought battle, the Kakatiya forces emerged victorious. After a gap of 6 years, Alauddin Khilji once again invaded Warangal with a huge army to take revenge against Prataparudra in 1309 AD. This time, the Sultan's army was led by Malik Kafur and Khaja Haji. The Delhi forces started attacking Warangal on January 19, 1310. Prataparudra made a valiant effort to protect his fort by allotting one leader each on the 73 battlements with a group of soldiers. The attack went on for 25 consecutive days. During this period, the opposite forces could occupy the Puttakota or the outer fort only. They could not enter the main fort. Malik Kafur wanted to capture Warangal fort at any cost. With this intention, he started harassing the villagers and burning their property. Prataparudra was unable to bear the sufferings of his people, who were made to undergo harassment against the morals of war by the Sultan's forces. He was forced to stop the war and came to an agreement with Khilji. As Prataparudra was busy fighting with the Sultan's forces, the revolt started in the southern parts of his kingdom. After the second invasion of Muslims, Prataparudra concentrated on suppressing these revolts. The Nellore vassal, Rajaganda Gopala, declared himself as an independent king. In the same way, the Vaidumba king, Mallideva of Gandikota, questioned the sovereignty of Prataparudra. To suppress these two kings, Prataparudra, along with his most loyal person, Juttaya Lenka Gonkareddy, surrounded Nellore and chased away Rajaganda Gopala. Gonkareddy defeated Mallideva and regained Gandikota. In 1310, there was a dispute between two Pandyan brothers regarding the throne. Veera Pandya and Sundara Pandya were claiming to ascend the throne. Taking advantage of this disunity between the brothers, the Hoysala king Veeraballala III occupied some places he had lost earlier from Tamil region, along with Kanchi, Chandragiri and Narayanavanam from Kakatiya Empire. Prataparudra became angry with Veeraballala and sent a force, defeated Veeraballala and recaptured the lost places, including Kanchi. The recapture of Kanchi and the heading of Kakatiya forces towards southern region created a kind of apprehension among Pandyan kings. Immediately, the Pandyan kings, along with Ravi Varma, Kulashekara of Kerala, planned to chase away Kakatiyas from Kanchi. This plan of Pandyans resulted in bitter war between Pandyans and Prataparudra. In a deciding battle between the two sides on the outskirts of Kanchi, Kakatiya forces inflicted a crushing defeat on the opponent. Kakatiya forces chased away Pandyans into Tamil region and defeated King of Kerala and Veerapandya and made Sundara Pandya to sit on the Pandya throne. This fact is known through an inscription of Sriranga in 1317 AD. As a gesture of his gratefulness on the victory of Kanchi, Prataparudra visited the temple of Sri Ranganatha on the Kaveri island and presented a village called Salakalavidu near Giddalur to the Lord and laid an inscription popularly known as Salakalavidu Charity Inscription. On this occasion, Prataparudra had built Kambam Tank in Prakasham district. After this, he had cleared the forests in Kadapa, Kurnool and Anantapur and made them useful for cultivation and gave them to the people of those places. Finally, he went back to Warangal. Prataparudra did not give up his flair for literature. He continued his writings even though he was involved in many conflicts. He wrote Ushodayam, a poetic composition, and a play called Yayati Charitra. Not only Prataparudra, but his court scholars like Vidyanatha, Nalakirti, Shyakamalla, and Narsimha wrote many poetic works. After the death of Alauddin Khilji, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq ascended the throne and declared himself as the Sultan. In another direction, which was inevitable. The food reserves which were distributed to people fell short. The soldiers died in great numbers, unable to bear hunger. On the other side, the Delhi forces became impatient as the fort was impregnable and could not be taken into their control even after a period of 5 months. They started harassing the people outside the fort by looting food grains, raping women, and burning their houses. The places outside the fort was full of cries of people because of hunger and sufferings. Prataparudra could not bear the heart-rending sufferings of people who trusted him a lot. His heart was broken and he put aside his sovereignty and ordered for the main doors to be opened and surrendered to Sultan's forces. When Prataparudra voluntarily surrendered to Sultan's forces, Orgali had lost its glitter and plunged into darkness, according to Kalvacheru inscription by Anithalli in 1423 AD. The Sultan's forces played with the lives of common people. They had created a situation where Prataparudra had to surrender by killing his conscience. Bobba Reddy and others of Recharla dynasty realized their betrayal against Prataparudra and came to warfield with repentance, but damage had already been done. Ulugh Khan was successful through the back door and against war morals. He planned and adopted a cruel and inhuman policy to capture Warangal fort. He played with the lives of common people and innocent people who did not even know how to prepare, face, and fight with armory. Ulugh Khan created a pathetic situation for Prataparudra and illegally made him to surrender on inhuman grounds. Ulugh Khan did not capture Warangal with his strength and valor. Immediately after surrender of Prataparudra, the opposite forces entered the fort and destroyed palaces, houses, temples, and unmatched artifacts day and night. Ulugh Khan thought and feared that if Prataparudra was kept there, the people of Warangal may revolt against them because of the love and reverence for their emperor. They planned to take him to Delhi as a war prisoner. The Delhi Sultan wanted to see Prataparudra with a bowed head and as a war prisoner, but his cruel wish was not fulfilled. Prataparudra was a man of great self-esteem. He fought with Delhi forces for a period of 22 years. He thought that his great valor had been of no use and killed himself on the banks of the river Narmada and became a martyr. He was ready to sacrifice his life for the sake of his people. He did not care for his life, but he could not lose his self-esteem. These facts are inscribed on an inscription by Musunuri Prolayanayaka's Vilasatamra Patra of 1330 AD. Vishalakshi, wife of Prataparudra, put an end to her life as soon as she heard that her husband gave away his life. In 1326 AD, Kolani Rudradeva laid an inscription at Santamangaluru in memory of Prataparudra. Prataparudra was a valiant emperor. He withstood the Muhammadan invasions 9 times and fought with them for a prolonged period of 22 years. On the other side, he suppressed the invasions and revolts made by other kings. He was the only emperor who checked the spread of Muhammadan rule to other southern parts of India. Prataparudra was succeeded by his brother Annamadeva, who came to power after the downfall of Kakatiya Empire, which reflected the culture and history of the region. Annamadeva made Chitrakuta as his capital and ruled some other places of Bastar in the present Chhattisgarh state, according to an inscription by Dikpaladeva at Danteshwar. This is the immortal history of the great Kakatiyas. Kakatiya kings and emperors were not engaged in trivial things. They always thought of the welfare of the common man. They never enjoyed with dancing women. They were neither involved in polygamy nor encouraged polygamy. They gave utmost importance to agriculture. Art, handicrafts, culture flourished during their rule. Kakatiya kings never encouraged sati. It means a wife burning herself with her dead husband, a former practice in Hinduism. Taxes were discussed and decided in the village committees and collected as per consensus. This is why the Kakatiya rule has become a golden age in the history of South India. During the reign of Kakatiyas, the missionary organizations created a lot of awareness among downtrodden sections. Veerashaiva cult was recognized as a religion. The downtrodden people who were following this cult were recognized and given social status. The downtrodden people were educated and written their own history. In this background, a person called Nulaka Chandaya's life history or biography was written, which was popularly known as Nulaka Chandaya Puranam. Kakatiyas followed and promoted the Veerashaiva cult. The nature and scope of this cult was broad. It never showed any discrimination against any caste or creed. It is incorrect information and a rumor that Kakatiyas persecuted Jains. This is evident from the fact that a famous Jain poet called Appayaryudu completed a work called Jinendra Kalyanam in Orugallu. Moreover, he praised the unbiased education system of Kakatiyas. It is clear that characters like Manchana Sharma and Titiba Shetty from Kridabirama visited Buddha and Jain temples in Orugallu. Further, most of the employees of the state offices were Jains. Now you are watching the Jatara at Medaram village in Warangal district. There are different versions These facts, it is evident that if at all any war took place between tribals and rulers, it was before the rule of Kakatiya dynasty. Human beings may born and die, but their great contributions made by them will remain forever and make them immortal personalities.
The big hard rocks which surround the Urugallu fort reflect the courageous hearts of Kakatiyas and stand as sentinels of powerful swords which protected the Kakatiya Empire day and night. The exquisitely carved huge lions at the grand doors of the fort remind the past courage and valor of Kakatiyas. The grand elephants sculpted in the premises of Swayambhu Devalaya have become silent spectators. The marvelous statues and carvings on the temples and beautifully chiseled Nandis in the premises of the temples have become mute, as if they are remembering the glorious past of their emperors.
The glory and grandeur of Kakatiyas has become a thing of the past, but this past has become a beacon light for the contemporary